Hello and welcome to the Be Your Own podcast. I'm your host, Samana Duran, and founder of Be Your Own, the global media hub of all things entrepreneurship and career navigation. As you know, this podcast is all about highlighting incredible women out there doing awesome things. I'm very excited for today's episode as we have gut health expert and founder of the UK's leading Kefir producer brand, the Chuckling goat, Shann Nix Jones, who's also an author of the 3 books, Secrets from the Chuckling Goat, The Good Skin Solution and The Kefir Solution. I haven't read all 3 books as of yet, but I have read the first one very briefly, and from an educational standpoint, it's very clear that the diet system is broken. The simple fact remains today that you aren't what you eat, but more so, you are what you absorb, as commonly noted by Shann. Today, I intend to uncover the Chuckling Goat journey that led the journalist and radio talk show host from San Francisco who couldn't boil an egg to discovering a powerful natural healing remedy that solved her family's health problems. Shann is really so inspiring in so many different ways, and it's just another reason why I really love doing these podcasts with women who do mean business. So, without further ado, let's crack on to the interview. It's a joy to speak to you today, Shann, on the Be Your Own podcast, even if it is remotely. How are you doing?
It's a beautiful sunny day. Happy to be here.
So, without referring back to your book, Secrets from a Chuckling Goat, too much, you started off as a journalist and a radio talk show host from San Francisco. How did the story unfold?
I covered Hugh Hefner's wedding back in the day. That's how I got my start. And then I did an undercover story in the high schools. I posed as an undercover reporter for a month in the high school, and that story got turned into the movie Never Been Kissed with Drew Barrymore. Also back in the day. Yeah, I was a lot cooler than her, if you've ever seen the movie, just saying. Then I went into talk radio. I was in the Shann Nix Show was my name at the time, and I did that for 10 years on KGO radio. It was a big station, 50,000 watts, all the way from Canada to Mexico every night. And then I came to the UK, just got fed up with everything, met a Brit, what can I say, left California and came here, and I've been here ever since. So I landed on this Welsh goat farm. My husband's a Welsh goat farmer, and I was a city girl, couldn't boil an egg, literally, lived in an apartment, had a maid, and suddenly I'm trying to cook dinner, and, he makes his own soap, bread, raises his own sheep, chickens. I tell you what, super, super steep learning curve. But true love carried the day, and I learned all those things and learned how to be a farm wife, and here I am.
Wow, that must have been such a massive culture shock for you. I've never personally been to Wales, but I can only imagine what the life is like over there. So the Chuckling Goat is the UK's leading producer of goat's milk kefir and kefir skincare. How did the initiative come about? Because from what I understand, your son Benji was extremely ill and your husband later contracted MRSA. Is that right?
So my little boy Benji was having a lot of bronchial infections, and he'd get sick. I'd take him to the doctor. He'd have antibiotics. Then 3 months later, we'd be back in the doctor's surgery again, more antibiotics, and I could see we were just going round and round in circles. He started getting eczema patches. I know now that those are connected. I didn't know at the time, but I could see that things were not progressing in a good way. So I said to my husband, look, Benji's just getting ill all the time. We've got to do something. And he said, let's get a goat. And I thought, I just told you that my son is ill and you said get a goat. That doesn't make sense to me. However, because he's a Welsh farmer, in the Welsh farming tradition, they understand about the benefits of goat's milk. So goat's milk is much preferable to cow's milk because it doesn't contain the A1 casein, which is very allergenic and which causes all that mucus and phlegm. As it turns out, 60% of adults actually have some mild form of cow's milk allergy, and they don't even realize it. So anyone listening who has any kind of sinus issues, lung issues, asthma, breathing, bronchial problems, get rid of the cow's milk and try goat's milk instead, or oat milk or rice milk, almond milk. Just get the cow's milk out of your diet and you will see an immediate improvement. So we actually drove from the doctor's surgery to see a man who had a goat, and we bought the goat Her name was Bivig. She was a beautiful black and white goat. I learned to milk the goat. I cried. It was really hard. But I finally learned to milk the goat. Gave the goat's milk to Benji. Great. It worked really well, except then I had too much milk. So this goat was producing so much milk, you can only drink so much of it, and it was going off in my fridge. So I was thinking, what am I going to do with all this milk? And a girlfriend called me and said, turn on the radio. There's a woman talking about goat's milk. As it turns out, it was Dr. Natasha Campbell McBride. She's Russian. She was using something called Kefir to treat her patients who had autism, ADHD, dyspraxia, schizophrenia. And she was researching and working on the gut and psychology syndrome, which has to do with the gut-brain connection. And her book is called GAPS, G-A-P-S syndrome. She designed the GAPS diet. Very effective. So anyone who has autism should absolutely read her book. I listened to that and thought, ooh, she's making something with goat's milk. If I get in touch with her and ask her how to make this kefir, which I'd never heard of, in a therapeutic form that she'd be happy to give her clients, it would be a way for me to use up my goat's milk. Maybe it would help these busy people and they wouldn't have to mess with making this, whatever it is. So I did that. I got in touch with her. She taught me how to make it properly, and we've been making it properly ever since. Proper means, number one, you use real kefir grains and not a powdered sachet. 2, you use goat's milk and not cow's milk. And 3, it is not flavored. It is not sweetened. It has no artificial sweeteners, no sugar, no fruit flavors. If you are drinking kefir and your kefir tastes good, you're drinking the wrong kefir.
I've never tried kefir. How do you mix it all together?
You take the milk, preferably goat's milk and not cow's milk, and you put in the milk these things called kefir grains. They're not grains like wheat grains. They're actually constellation of yeast and bacteria. They are living organisms. You can't manufacture a kefir grain. You only get a kefir grain from another kefir grain. The first kefir grain came out of Russia, the Black Mountains in the Caucasus. And you put those little squishy organisms, they look like little cauliflowers. You put them into the milk, and they essentially eat the milk. They transform it into this drinking product called kefir. You strain the grains out and keep them. They reproduce. And then you drink the drinking product. It's like a thin yogurt. But it is tart, tangy, fizzy, and it has butyric acid, which is what is the flavoring in Parmesan cheese. So that really sharp taste. And that's important. Butyric acid is a short-chain fatty acid. It's anti-inflammatory. If you're not tasting that in your kefir, it's not doing you any good. And if it's got sugar in it, it's harming your gut more than it's helping. So kefir is good medicine, but good medicine doesn't always taste good. It's meant to be sharp and tangy.
In what sense did this help tackle Benji's underlying health conditions?
So it helped Benji, and it actually cleared his eczema. So the mums at the school gate were starting to ask me, what are you doing for Benji's eczema? Because, of course, it's such a big problem with school kids. And I told them, and I started I was making some homemade soap as well with the goat's milk, which is also very good for eczema. So we managed to get rid of his bronchial condition, get rid of his asthma, and get rid of his eczema. And we were making this stuff called kefir. Now, it was a really hard sell at the time because nobody had ever heard of it. We were making it out in our stone barn. We were leaving it unflavored, as we'd been told to do, and it tasted sharp and tangy, which is an unfamiliar taste because everyone's used to everything being sweet. So we were driving it around to the health food shops, and we'd say, "Hey, here's the stuff. You've never heard of it, and it doesn't taste very good." And they're like, not much was going on. We were just driving around to the health food shops and mostly getting turned down. Then my husband got ill. My husband had colitis, and he had it for a long time. He went into the hospital and came out without his large intestine. They removed his entire large intestine, but with a superbug infection. So he had an antibiotic-resistant superbug infection in his abdominal incision. Oh. What that means is that there's nothing that works on it. There were little red holes that were being eaten into his skin, and they were getting deeper and deeper. And the nurse would measure with a little probe, and it was just getting deeper, and there was nothing they could do to stop it. So I'm no doctor, but I know that, if that red infection hits his vital organs,
it's not going to be good, is it?
So the doctor came to see us, and he actually peeled the bandage back, looked down, and I watched all the blood drain out of his face. And he said, "I have no experience with anything of this magnitude. You need to contact the surgeon who did the operation." He got into his car, he locked the car doors, and sped off up the track. And so I was sitting there. I remember my knees kind of going out from under me and thinking, okay, the doctors left us. I can't get him back into the hospital. He has MRSA, which is contagious. They screen you before you go in. And if you have MRSA, you're not allowed to go in. I can't put him in a hospice. What happens? Does he just die on my sofa? And at that moment, I thought, this is not how my story ends. I did not come this far and find this lovely man at this late stage in my life for him to die on my sofa. That is not happening on my watch. And I didn't know what to do about it. But the surgeon, we did contact the surgeon who wasn't able to help us, but he did say MRSA colonizes all over the body. So it replaces every copy of itself. Every normal skin cell is replaced with an infected MRSA cell. So it's not just the wound, it's all over the body, every cell in the skin. And I thought, even if I dip him in bleach, I'm not going to be able to kill all those bad bugs. And it occurred to me, I am not a scientist or a doctor. However, I'm a communication specialist. And what I know is communication. And when I was reading and researching, I could see that the frame of all of the research was so aggressive. They were talking about kill the bacteria, kill the bug. It's a war, it's a battle. You win it, you fight it, you kill it. And I thought, you know what? That's the wrong frame. You're never going to be able to kill all those bad bacteria. You will kill off 98, 99% of them. And the 1% that's left will be called resistance. Literally, that's what they're called. They're resistant, and they breed and grow. This is how we have antibiotic-resistant infection to begin with. We kill off most, but not all of them, and the ones that are left breed, and then our medicines don't touch them. So I thought, that's the wrong frame. We don't need to be killing them off. What's the opposite of killing? Friends, harmony, dancing, allies. And I thought, right, I need an ally on the microbiotic level that will put the bad bugs back in the box. And I thought, you know what I have? I've got Kefir. The stuff we're making in our barn, I know that it suppresses pathogens inside the gut. And I wondered if it might do the same on top of the skin. I didn't know, and there was no research. Nobody was using Kefir on the skin at that point. But I thought by this time my husband was fading in and out of consciousness, and I thought, well, you know what? It's not going to harm him, and it might help. So I can't just sit here and watch him die. I have to do something. So I used a combination of essential oils to knock back the pathogen level, and then I coated him with the Kefir, not the wound. I wasn't that brave. I was afraid I'd give him gangrene or something even worse. But the rest of his skin, on the crazy theory that I could knock the bad bugs back a bit and then replace them with the good bugs. And he said, what are you doing? And I said, look, don't worry, sweetheart. And I did that. I treated him like that every day for 2 weeks. And at the end of the 2 weeks, the nurse came back and swabbed him, and he swabbed clear. We had completely cleared his MRSA.
Wow.
His wound healed. He got up out of bed, got on his tractor, and he's been there ever since. And the Welsh Assembly government heard of what was happening and sent an innovation specialist over to find out what was going on. He walked us over to Aberystwyth University, where they tested everything that I'd been working with, and sure enough, the essential oil combination that I had put together was found to be effective against MRSA, also Campylobacter, E. coli, and Salmonella. And the Kefir indeed replaces the good bacteria and suppresses the pathogen, not only in the gut, but also in the skin. It's insane. And so I wrote a book about it called Secrets from Chuckling Go, which is my diaries during that time. So if you're interested in, reading through that whole journey, that's my story. But my own private miracle is that my husband is still alive today.
Wow, that is, see, listen, women always have the remedy.
I'll tell you, you want something done, you back a woman into a corner and threaten her family. And the takeaway from all that for me was that Kefir is as effective on the skin as it is inside the gut.
Yeah.
So I thought, well, what I did with him was not very user-friendly because I was covering him with this stuff and it was all gloopy and it smelled like cheese and it was nobody's going to want to do that. But I actually went to Yorkshire and learned to put the Kefir into soaps and lotions so that they smell nice and they're easy to use. And that is the protocol that we came up with, which is brilliant for severe eczema, rosacea, acne. You drink the Kefir to heal the gut, and then you put the Kefir soaps and lotions on the skin. The two things at the same time, you're healing from the inside and the outside. We have amazing, crazy results with those very severe skin conditions. And that's when my business started to take off.
How do we get serious about our own gut health, and how do we understand more about our own microbiome?
The science here is very recent. So this is about gut health, and this is about your gut microbiome. Inside your gut, you have trillions of bacteria, and the name they use for that is the microbiome. The Human Microbiome Project only began in 2007, which is really when we started understanding what was going on inside there. The way I like to describe that is, imagine that inside your gut there's like an Amazon rainforest, and you have all these little creatures, birds, bugs, lizards, leaves, deer, tigers, and they're all running around in this amazing ecosystem. But the ecosystem inside your gut, like any natural ecosystem, is very fragile, and it can be damaged. The things that damage it are what I call the 4 horsemen of the gut apocalypse. I've got 3 books, all of which have become bestsellers. So Secrets from Chuckling Goat, the Kefir Solution, Natural Healing for IBS, Anxiety, and Depression, and also the Good Skin Solution, Natural Healing for Eczema, Psoriasis, Rosacea, and Acne. So if you're interested in the science, which I'm boiling down for you really quickly right now, you can get hold of any of those books and read them. Or you can hop on chucklinggoat.co.uk and talk to one of my nutritional therapists who will offer you free advice within a minute. I have a trained crew now of nutritional therapists who are immediately available. And
so you're not just selling kefir-related products, you're selling a service as well as educational resources and tools.
I tell you what, it's all about the information. It really is, Robert. It's not a product that I'm offering. It's education.
Yeah.
But inside your gut, the 4 horsemen of the gut apocalypse that damage your gut microbiome, and they are sugar, antibiotics, environmental toxins like chemicals, the ones you find in your personal care products and your cleaning products. So the average woman will host over 515 chemicals by the time she steps out of the bathroom in the morning. And those chemicals, many of them leach into your system and actually alter your DNA. And they alter it to the point where your cells do not recognize one another, and they turn and attack each other. And that is called autoimmune. Autoimmune disorders include psoriasis, rosacea, eczema, IBS, diabetes, arthritis, chronic fatigue, lupus, IME. There's a massive list of autoimmune symptoms. 78% of people who have autoimmune are women. Why do you think that is? It's because we're using the personal care products and we're doing the blinking housework as well. And those chemicals are giving us these autoimmune conditions. So you can put steroids on that all day long. You will never clear that skin. In fact, what you're doing is making it worse. It's a poison chalice. You're taking more antibiotics, which kill off the bugs inside your gut, like pouring bleach into a river kills the fish. And then you're worse, and then your skin flares more. It's more of a symptom. And then you put more steroids on, which your skin can get addicted to the steroids. And you take more antibiotics, which further wipes out your gut microbiome, and you're going right down this vicious spiral. Autoimmune has 3 components. Number 1, there is a genetic predisposition. So you will find something running in your family: eczema, psoriasis, rosacea, IBS, arthritis, diabetes. There's going to be something in it. There's going to be a genetic family drift. Okay, yeah. That's number 1. Number 2, there's a trigger event. A trigger event can be an infection, a virus, a course of antibiotics, a bereavement. We hear that a lot. It can be a hormonal event, puberty, pregnancy, menopause. Any of those things can trigger the pre-existing disposition inside your system, and it will start to roll, and it will become symptomatic. Now, how do you become symptomatic if you're having autoimmune symptoms? It can be all over your body because your immune system is located in different areas, right? 70% of it's located in your gut, but your skin is part of your immune system as well. Your sinuses are also part of your immune system. Your lungs, anywhere where the inside meets the outside is where your body protects itself. Makes sense, right?
Yeah.
So those are all the sites of your immune system. So if you have autoimmune, you're going to have these different symptoms. You may have sinus symptoms. You may have wheezing or asthma in the lungs. You may have eczema, psoriasis, rosacea, acne on the skin. In your brain, it will show up as anxiety, depression. In your nervous system, it will show up as fatigue. In your joints, it can feel like joint pain or arthritis. But those are all symptomatic leaves of a single tree, and the trunk of the tree sits in your gut. And the third aspect of autoimmune is gut. You're always going to see some kind of gut correlation. There's going to be diarrhea, constipation, or the joy of both at the same time. There's going to be food intolerance, gluten intolerance. You can have celiac, you can have IBS, pain, bloating. But there's going to be some gut aspect because 70% of your immune system sits inside your gut. So if you damage it, that's what I know I'm going to see. So if I talk to someone who's got autoimmune and they've got rosacea, then I say, okay, do you also have allergies? Do you also have anxiety? Do you also have fatigue? Do you also have pain in the joints? It's not just one thing. What you've got is you've got a symptomatic, all these symptomatic leaves popping up at different places, but the trunk of the tree sits in your gut. Now, can diet affect your gut microbiome? Absolutely, 100%. And the science is all very clear. Dietary changes affect your microbiome 100%. Both you can do, positive changes to improve it, and you can do negative things to harm it. As I said earlier, the 4 horsemen, I think I only got through 3 of them. Sugar is the number one damaging thing. Antibiotic, stress, and chemicals. Those are the 4 things that harm your gut bugs. Alcohol is also not good, but the main thing is sugar. And sugar is not just stuff that tastes sweet. It's anything that's high GI. So that's going to be, white bread, white flour, white potatoes, anything that your system burns quickly, right? And also, your gut bugs need a lot of fiber because that's what they eat. So they ferment fiber and they turn it into short-chain fatty acids like butyrate, which we talked about earlier, which reduce inflammation inside the gut. So you need to be feeding your gut bugs. And what your gut bugs want is something that's high fiber, something that's low sugar, and they want good fats. So that's the kind of gut healing protocol that we recommend. Also, good probiotics put the good bugs back in that have been killed off, and prebiotics feed them the fiber that they need. So that's the, if you get on the Chuckling Go website and you talk to a nutritionist, that's the gut healing protocol that they are working with. And then they would ask you and say, okay, what's your situation? What are your symptoms? What are you looking at? What are you dealing with? And then they'll sort of specialize that information for you.
So how are you marketing everything right now?
Mm-hmm. Well, in the beginning, we had an advertising budget of 0. We're so skint that my husband had to sell his motorcycle for us to buy bottles to put the kefir in. So literally, we had no money and no advertising. So what we did have was we had the goats, we had the view, and I wrote a book. I published my diaries. I self-published my diaries, and then Hay House picked up my diaries and republished them, and that became a bestseller. So that generated a lot of attention in media, fire going there. But I think probably the most important thing that we've done is we're online. We are online. We do have a budget these days because we've had 6,000% growth in 4 years.
That's insane.
It's been amazing. It's been an amazing ride.
Yeah.
So we do a lot of Facebook. We do a lot of Instagram. We do a lot of Google Ads now that we have a budget. And then I continued to write books. It was kind of a natural progression. So we don't retail through any shops. We're 100% online. I don't sell through any third parties. If you want to buy my products, you come to me because I want people to understand how this works. And I need to be in touch with you so that our kefir is really strong, for example. If you have a damaged gut and you start taking a full load of kefir, it may throw you into a detox because it's so strong. It's beneficial, but you change anything in your gut too fast and you may have a flare. You might have tummy problems. You might have a skin flare. So I need to be there on the other end of the phone to coach you through that. If you buy my stuff from Tesco, maybe you'll get back in touch with me I need to coach you through the journey. So that's how I started, and it was just word of mouth because that's all we could afford. And then as it started to get busier, then I got more people in and I trained them. And then I got more interested in the gut science. And then I wrote the book about the good skin solution so that people could understand the connection between the gut and the skin. And then my clients were coming back to me saying, okay, great, it's cleared up my eczema, fabulous. But I also noticed it's cleared up my anxiety. My depression is gone. My fatigue is gone. And I went, oh, okay, that's nice, but I'm only interested in skin. But they kept coming back and going, no, really, like my energy level is amazing. What's going on? And I went, okay, I'll bite. I'll go looking for the science. What is connecting your gut to your skin, to your energy levels, to your anxiety, to your depression, to your mood? Like, I went looking for the science and I found it. And that's in my book called The Kefir Solution, Natural Healing for IBS, Anxiety, and Depression. Because IBS, anxiety, and depression are all connected. Your gut is connected to your skin, but your gut is also connected to your brain and your mood. So, same story, antibiotics, sugar, chemicals, and stress damage your gut. You are going to see that show up in your brain as anxiety, depression, and fatigue as it happens. Your gut and your brain are not only connected, they're literally one thing. They come from the same piece of fetal tissue. They both operate with neurons. The neurons are driven by serotonin. Your brain has 100 billion neurons. Your gut has 100 million neurons, but they're still the same neurons. They function in the same way. Serotonin, which is the happy hormone, 90% of it is made inside your gut. Damage your gut, and there's no serotonin, which means there's no happy.
Yeah.
And there's also no smooth, pain-free processing of food through your gut. So it's connected. If you have a mood disorder and you don't deal with it, chances are within a year you'll end up with IBS. And if you have IBS and you don't deal with it, chances are within a year you'll end up with mood disorder. You can enter that loop at either point. And one thing will lead, statistically, scientifically, one thing will lead to another. The good news is that all of that resolves if you actually put the good bugs back in your gut and feed them the food that they need and stop eating the junk that's causing the problem. What I suggest is to add things in. Take the kefir, take the prebiotics. Then you start to change the balance. You start to get the good bugs in there. Then it becomes easier to make good food choices. So rather than, trying to deprive yourself and stop eating everything nice, add in things that will boost your gut health. Then you start this virtual spiral. You'll start feeling a bit better. Your skin will start to clear. Less anxiety, less depression. Your hair is thicker, your nails are better. Oh, I'm feeling good. And then you go, maybe I don't need that chocolate. You start to support your system and make yourself stronger. And then you can start to make good choices rather than just depriving yourself and throwing yourself into a state of rebellion.
How can we implement these small changes into our everyday life?
We're just releasing an app to help people through this journey. Wow. And what we have is routines. Yes. I started out, I'm actually writing copy for it as we speak. And we originally were talking about challenges. And I thought, you know what? People don't want challenges. No, we're going to call it routines. And they're just routines that you can add into your day, which is not going to, it's not hard. It's not difficult. It's just something that you change your habit. And then that habit starts to support you in better health. And what I suggest for people who are just starting out and feeling overwhelmed, make a smoothie. That's it. Every day, add a smoothie into your diet. And what this smoothie should have in it is kefir, unflavored, goat's milk kefir, prebiotic powder. Your gut bugs eat 21 different kinds of fiber, and those fibers are contained in things like tamarind seed and maitake mushroom. And how much of those did any of us eat yesterday? So we took all those natural sources and put them into a prebiotic powder. 10 grams of that, job done. 18 different sources of fiber, easy. You don't have to figure out how to cook maitake mushrooms. So a kefir, which is a probiotic, the prebiotic powder, and 1 tablespoonful of flaxseed oil. Flaxseed oil is an amazing oil. It's got omega-3s in it. It has other advantages as well. It's anti-inflammatory. And it comes from the work of Dr. Joanna Budwig, who in the 1950s was the premier expert in good fats in Europe. And she was dealing actually with cancer patients and finding that the kind of fats that we consume, the sort of chemically treated fats that are used to keep long shelf life in things, actually are missing an electron. And when you put those into your body doesn't, literally you're creating molecular issues. You need the good fats. That's what the avocado is good for. Oily fish, flaxseed oil, it doesn't have a flavor. It's very easy to mix in. It emulsifies well with the kefir. So kefir, prebiotic flaxseed oil. And you can put fruit in if you want to make it taste good. And you can also put 100% pure stevia. The only sweetener I recommend, not coconut sugar, not maple syrup, not agave, not honey. I use honey medicinally for colds and sore throats, but not every day because it's high GI. 100% pure stevia if you need to sweeten it. It's only 1 on the GI scale. It doesn't harm your microbiome. And you drink that smoothie, and you drink that smoothie every day for 3 weeks, and you will start feeling better, and you will naturally start making some changes. Like suddenly you'll go into the fruit and veg section of the grocery store and go, that looks good. Because your gut bugs drive your cravings. They control your brain through the vagus nerve. And so if you start putting you're changing it's like 2 armies. In your gut, there's bad bugs and good bugs. And if you're eating sugar, you're both killing off the good bugs and feeding the bad bugs. It's like you're feeding the wrong army. So your kefir and prebiotics and good fats are going to start to slowly shift that balance. So then there's more good bugs in there. You're feeding the good bugs. There's no point in putting the fish in the fish tank without feeding the fish. You got to they're living organisms. They need their food. If you just drink kefir and then eat a lot of sugar, you're putting the good bugs in there and killing them off. Yeah. So you start putting the good bugs in there, and they will start to increase, and then they want what they want. And what they want is healthy things, high fiber things. And you will start to go, I kind of feel like a salad. That's weird. But you'll notice, so it's a natural progression. You're not driving yourself with white knuckles. You are just feeding the good bugs, and then the good bugs will help you.
It's very clear that you run a customer-led and also efficiency-led business. What would be your solid piece of advice for anyone looking to launch a business?
I mean, my first piece of advice would be never compromise. You know, there's a lot of advice given out there like, you can't do a value-driven business because, you got to think about the bottom line. Frankly, I never thought about the bottom line. It was never about return on investment. I was always first I was trying to save my son and then save my husband, and then we were trying to help people. But it's important that there is actually some kind of value system at the heart of your business. And I think of it like a crystal. It's like if the crystal is right at the heart of the business, when you grow the ice palace, that will be right too. If your crystal is distorted, your ice palace is going to be distorted. That's just the way it works. So we were always customer driven. And I just followed the lead of my customers. So when they would come back and say, well, I need this, then I would make that. And that, because I was in such close contact with them, so I didn't have any money. I wasn't advertising. I was just on social media and building my email list. And then they would come back and I was responding to them personally. So that close personal relationship allowed me to make choices that were customer driven. So I was always thinking about how can I best fill their needs. And if I didn't know, I just asked them. And then they would come back and say, okay, well, this is what we want. And I go, okay, well, I'll do that then. Which has led to an interesting organic kind of growth. So today, we don't just make kefir. We offer other things that boost gut health. So, for example, when I saw there was a microbiome test out there, I went, my customers are going to want that because it will tell them exactly what's going on. We don't have to guess anymore. Fantastic. So I got that, and then I realized, that's going to produce an 80-page PDF of raw data. Nobody wants that. Nobody can deal with that. So what do I need? I need a friendly nutritionist to explain the results to them. Okay, I'll hire one. I hired one. We launched the test. They sold 400 in a week. The nutritionist quit. He emailed me that night and quit. And I was like, mate, I got 400 people who their results are coming in. They're going to be waiting to speak to you. And I just thought, what am I going to do? So I had my head down on the picnic table. And my website designer, his name is Han. He's a brilliant guy. And rather than running a shop, we pay Han to be on site with us 5 days a week. And I tell you what, I wouldn't be without him. But I said, what am I going to do? And he said, look, we do everything better in-house anyway. What if we train everyone who's here who wants to be as a nutritional therapist? And I thought, okay. And that's what we did. I put that out to everybody on staff. I'm like, look, who wants to be a nutritional therapist? I will pay for your training. And so 6 people wanted to do it, including, somebody who milks the goats and somebody who packs the boxes. And so we had one girl in the office would answer the phone while the other one did her training, and then they would swap. And that's how we trained our nutritional therapists. And we got them through the training and with their certificates before the results came back in. It was crazy times. That's just an example of sort of how our organic growth we've been customer-led, which has led to organic growth, which has taken us down some crazy paths. So now I've got a team of nutritional therapists. Everyone who answers my phone is a qualified nutritional therapist. Well, that has clearly altered our value offering in ways that I would never have guessed back when we were just making kefir and soap. So being in touch with your customers in that vital communication and then following where they lead you is one way to scale. Another way is, so first it was just me, and I was, making the soap on the stove and packing up the parcels, sending them out, answering the phone, writing the books, doing everything. You just have to wait for that balance where you're like, ooh, okay, now I really am so busy that I'm starting to lose customers. Like, there will come a time when you literally cannot do it all yourself, and it's starting to hurt you that you can't. You're losing business. And so you're actually losing more by not hiring a body. If you're wondering whether it's a good time to add someone to your team, I really recommend that you get on indeed.co.uk, type in the job that you're thinking about, and see what kind of salary people are making. Sometimes you can hire someone to do anything, is what I've found. And you'll be amazed at how inexpensive it is to hire someone to join you. You could have, someone probably is happy to come in for 2 days a week. You might be able to hire someone to come in for, 4 days, twice a week. And that's all you need. And that suits them as well. So if you can improve the value of your business by having some help, it is scary, because it's like you're in a canoe and then you got to put your foot in another canoe, or if you're thinking about giving up your day job. We got to that scary point where my husband quit his day job to come on board. And then it was the two of us. And then we grew it. And then I needed someone to help me make soap so that I could be talking to the customers. And so we brought that person in. And, it's just, you have to sort of inch it up, the supply and the demand, kind of one side at a time, and go, ooh, are we there? And then it's scary, because then that person, you're paying them, and then you're responsible for them, and you have to keep paying them, and these people have families and so on. We took some decisions along the way that were very value driven, and as I say, for me, cash has never been king. It's always been about the values. So we could have automated, for example, but we preferred to keep everything small and human scale and hire human beings in and pay them well above minimum wage, because this is a depressed area of the world economically. So we hired in people rather than buying machines. And now, loads of our team members, most of them are young. They've been, buying houses and getting married. And so, we're really proud of the fact that we're helping the people on our team. We're paying them a good wage, and they're becoming house-owning, tax-paying citizens, and it's boosting the prosperity in this corner of the world. So I'm very interested in ecosystem values, and for me that has to do with connection. We're connected to our animals, our family, our team, our neighborhood, our country, and all of those connections drive all of our decisions, if that makes sense. So I can advocate, for a long time I never made a business plan. I never balanced my checkbook. I'm not good at that kind of stuff. I don't have an MBA. What I do have is a real drive and desire to help people. And my husband is a very bottom line Welsh farmer, practical kind of guy. So we make a good team. But being value driven like that, even though for a long time I thought, proper businessmen would really look down on me. The guys in the white guys in the gray suits with the red ties talking about Q1, Q2. I just always thought, ooh, that's not for me. I don't want to do business because I'm not like that. Well, turns out you don't have to be like that. You don't actually even have to have a business plan unless you want a loan from the bank. And I advise you don't get a loan from the bank. If you can't afford it, don't buy it. Don't put yourself out on the limb like that. Grow slowly, grow organically. Social media is free. A Facebook page is free. You don't need all that expensive stuff. If you create something that is a beautiful, value-driven product and put it out there online, people will find you and they will follow you and they will purchase from you. You just have to stay true to your values and never compromise.
Yeah, absolutely. Having that customer-centric approach in any business is really paramount to the business's success, because by providing an overall excellent customer service, not only drives profit, but it also helps to build trust and loyalty within your customer base, and also cements a real solid reputation as a brand. You also invest heavily into your team members so that they grow and flourish within the company internally. How do you keep that passion and that momentum still going?
No one will care. No one will have the attention to detail. And I actually have found a couple of times when I have really, you do have to delegate certain tasks, but there's a level at which I insist on retaining overview, because I'm not going to just turn it over to someone and let them go, because they're not going to do it the same way I'm going to do it. So that's why, for example, I don't sell through outside retailers. That's why I don't, if I can train the people that I have here, and if before lockdown, we were in our open plan office and I was listening to everyone and listening to what they were saying. And if they got it wrong, I would go over and say, okay, no, that's not how we deal with customers. We're interested in 5-star customer service. We've got a 4.9 out of 5 on Trustpilot. That is our premier offering. And we will literally do anything for our customers. You have to eat, sleep, and breathe that to get to that level of customer response. So I can't outsource that. I have to be there with the people. When you join the team here, it really isn't just a job. It is a mission,
team.
And the people who work here are passionate. They're passionate. If they're not passionate, they go. That requirement of engagement and being excited about what we're doing. We're not just making widgets here. We're changing the world. And the people who dig it, love it, and stay. Through coronavirus, by the way, I want to advocate for this sort of heart-centered, value-oriented type of business. We continued trade because the Welsh Assembly government gave us special permission to do so. So because we're providing a service, and it's an important service, and we're not just making cheap, nasty widgets, we continue to trade. Because I have my website designer always kind of near me and with me, he was able to create a technical system where everyone who could work from home, so we were able to do that very rapidly. We adjusted. We're very small and nimble, so we changed our working schedule. So we're working 7 days, which enabled people to be 2 meters apart and have the social distancing at work. So we were able to adjust, and our business is up 50% because we're offering people products that they want and need to improve their own health. So what I say to people, I've got a book coming out in May called How to Start a Business on Your Kitchen Table. And that's the idea of how to get your own heart-centered, value-oriented business going. I talk about the 5-direction compass. And this is what I recommend. It is the, a Venn diagram where you lay circles down on top of each other and it's a place where they intersect. So your business is the intersection of what you love, what you're good at, what you can get paid for, what the world needs right now, and the 5th direction is the direction in which the universe is pushing you, giving you those little nudges, those little, synchronicities, friends giving you a book, you see a certain number 5 times, butterflies and signs, and you go, oh, no, it's nothing, it's just coincidence. Well, I don't believe in coincidence. I believe the universe is blowing wind into your sails and it's trying to push you in a certain direction. If there's something you love but you can't get paid for it, it's a hobby. If there's something that you can get paid for but it's not what the world needs right now, you're in the wrong sector. It has to be the combination of all of those things. And if you intersect all of those things, and there's an exercise in the book where you write lists and then you Venn diagram them and find what their intersection of that is, that's your business. That's your business. And if it fills all those requirements, it will take you through coronavirus, through lockdown, through crisis. We don't know what's going to happen.
Of course.
20 years from now, 50 years from now, we could be on Mars. Who knows? Maybe maybe this planet gets tapped out and we're underwater somewhere. But if you're operating on those principles, they will always steer you right, no matter what happens to the outside environment. So what I'm suggesting for people is that they become aligned with their heart and that they align their heart with the heart of the world. And if you do that and receive instruction from that level, rather than a business plan, then you will continue to be oriented toward your own magnetic north, and that will never desert you. I try to listen more than I talk. I'm talking a lot today, but when you run your own business, there's nobody to tell you what to do. And so it's really important that you have a meditation practice so that you tune in and listen to that little voice, and it comes from your heart, not from your brain, that tells you do this, not that, go this way, not that way, call this person today. So the more you tune in and listen to that inner 5-direction compass, the more you're going to be directed in exactly what you need to do. So I felt, again, being driven by values and heart orientation, not by return on investment. I thought, you know what, because we're still trading, and I feel very fortunate to be trading, I want to give back. And I am so impressed with the NHS workers who are walking into situations where they know they're facing infection, they're increasing their viral load, and they're dying. 154 NHS workers have given their lives in the line of duty. So I thought, what can we do? Our customers were contacting us. The people who work inside the NHS were saying, our hands are dry from all the hand washing, and we're getting spots from the masks. I said, I got something for that. I'm going to send you our Calm Down Kefir lotion. And I thought, I'm going to just send it for free. We're going to give 10% of our lotions to NHS workers. And then we got requests, and that wasn't enough, so we started giving 20%. And then that wasn't enough, and we ended up increasing our lotion production by 200% so that we could give it free to the NHS workers. And I just thought, this is what I want to do. This is just what I want to do. And so we kept doing that. One of the doctors to whom we sent the lotion came back and said, I'm an oncologist. I've got 900 cancer patients who've been through chemotherapy, and I want to trial your product using them to see if we can boost their gut health and improve their immune system before the second wave of COVID-19 comes around. And I said, great. So that's what we're doing. We are engaging in clinical trials inside the NHS, driven by a doctor, driven by our donations to the NHS. Now, that's the universe pushing you in the direction that you want to go. I couldn't create that. You can't. We're working with Aberystwyth with University for clinical trials. I'm a big fan of clinical trials, and I'm happy to cooperate with any trial needed. But you can't just knock on the door of the NHS and go, hey, you want to do a clinical trial? What I've discovered is that the unfolding that the universe has in mind for you is so much more exciting than anything that you could design in your tiny mind. I couldn't have thought that up, but it's synchronicity. It's getting the intuition, it's acting on the intuition, and then being willing to commit to the unfolding, and it will take you places you never could have imagined.
Thank you so much for listening. Please let us know what you think of the show. Don't forget you can find us on both Instagram and Twitter at BEYOUROWN UK. Our email address is beyourown@beyourown.org, so make use of it and drop us an email with anything that you want to know. If you fancy reading pretty much all of the career navigation stuff we talk about here on the podcast, then head over to beyourown.org for exclusive content, interviews, tools, and resources. And lastly, if you love the show, subscribe to us wherever you get your podcast.